Hey YouTube, today we're going to be comparing a few mid-size revolvers and 357 Magnum. And before we get started, I'm going to let you know that none of these revolvers are loaded. They've all been safety checked, and as I pick them up, I will show you that they are clear and we're safe to make this video. So what we're going to talk about today are rumors that people start, and mainly today it's worse than ever because we have the internet. And people start these rumors on the internet and they go rampant, and people start believing some things that maybe necessarily are not true. So I'm going to try my best to clear some of these rumors up, and maybe some of them have a little truth to them, who knows. But let's dive right into this. So what we have here is we have a couple Smith and Wesson mid-size revolvers, and we have a Colt mid-size revolver, and these are chambered in 357 Magnum. And mainly what these things were used for back in their heyday was the service weapons for police officers. Now, I'm going to go through each one of them, and I'm going to tell you some of the rumors and stuff that came out, and do I believe they're true or not, and reasons why some things happen, and different stuff like this. So what we have here, we're going to start off with is the Colt. This is a Colt 357 Magnum. This is a Colt Python, and this gun came out in 1955, and this is a mid-size revolver. They call it the I-frame, and if you speak Colt terminology, this is the I-frame. And what it was a full underlug, and it was just kind of a premium revolver. Well, instantly police officers started adopting this gun as their carry gun, and the reason being is this thing is pretty heavy duty. The frame is a lot more heavy dutier than the older Colts, with this beef. It's got a lot more balance with this full underlug on it and stuff like that. But some of the rumors that's going around about this gun was that it's fragile because of the complexity of the inside of it, because of the smooth action that this gun's known for. Colt Python's always known to have a real smooth action on it. And what a lot of people say, and they continue to say to this day, was these older Colt Pythons, and by the way, this is an older one. This one was manufactured in 1984. This is a bright stainless one. So what a lot of people will tell you is these things can go out of time, and if you shoot a heavy diet of 357 Magnums through it, they'll go out of time and the gun's ruined. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that I have shot thousands of rounds through a Colt Python, never had one go out of time. And if something happened to go out of time, there are people still left that can take these things apart and retime them. But it's not a big deal, and I have never had one go out of time ever. And I've shot magnums through it. I've done everything you can possibly have going through Colt Pythons. I've never had a problem with it. But people consistently, every time you mention this gun, they're like, oh yeah, it's beautiful, it's well made, and it's the best revolver ever made. But they'll go out of time if you shoot a lot of 357 Magnums for it. Well, last time I checked, it says right there on the side, 357 Magnum. So that's what it was meant to shoot through it. If it was that fragile, it would not cost as much as they cost. And these are premium revolvers, and they're somewhat expensive. Even when they were new, they're somewhat expensive. So I would set that aside, and I would think twice about it when somebody tells you that these things are super fragile. They're not fragile, folks. It is a medium-sized revolver that has no problem handling 357 Magnums. I've never seen any problems with them. Now we're going to move on, and this gun was introduced in 1955. So the actual 357 Magnum cartridge came out in 1935, and it was a Smith and Wesson end frame, model 27. Well, they called it the registered Magnum then, but it ended up being the model 27, the largest frame that Smith and Wesson had before they came out with these new modern X frames. And this gun here was the first really adopted police carry one. This is much smaller than that. This is an I frame. It's more like a Smith and Wesson, L frame. So we're going to move on down the line, and around the same time that Python came out, maybe a couple years before, Smith and Wesson came out with this thing, and this is a N-frame, or I'm sorry, this is a K-frame Smith and Wesson. This happens to be a Model 66. It's a 66-2. But when Smith and Wesson came out with this in 1953, it was the Model 19. It was in blued. It was a blued finish. And they didn't come out with a stainless one like this until like 1970s. I think 1977 is when they came out with them. But we're just talking about the frame size here. So 1953, they came out with a smaller K-frame for police units to carry around. And this was a lot easier to handle and a lot easier to carry than that gigantic N-frame that the Model 27 was. A lot easier to maneuver, a lot easier to carry, feels a lot better in your hand, not quite as bulky and everything. And some of the rumors that went around about these things was they were fine to carry, but if you shot a heavy dose of 357 Magnum on them, you can crack the forcing column. And I'm going to do my best to put this on camera. But if you look real close here, this forcing column here is kind of flattened off on the bottom because of the size of this frame, and the pressures of the 357 Magnum, it's been rumored, will crack that on these guns if you do a steady dose of 357 Magnum ammo through it. Now, it was so much so that it's been said that the police forces were told the officers that they need to practice and train with 38 Special and then carry them with 357 Magnum in them, the more powerful cartridge. I don't know that to be true or not, that the police forces ever actually told them that. It does seem plausible. There is a little flattened off area on that forcing column. I've never cracked one, folks, and I've shot 357 Magnum through this plenty on this gun. It has been shot with 357 Magnums in them, and it's never cracked. So I've personally never experienced that, but I can tell you this thing. I can tell you one thing about this. This has seemed to be such a recognized issue that in 1980, Smith and Wesson came out with this gun right here, and will be the L frame. This is an L frame. This is a step up from the K frame here. It's not quite as big as the N frame, but it is a little bit of a step up from this little K frame here. Now, this one is more like the Python here, the Colt Python, because it's got this full underlug on it. It's a little bit heavier frame on it, and it's very similar looking if you look at it side by side to the Python, and that's another reason why it was introduced. This Python here was so popular that everybody loved these things, and Smith and Wesson wanted to get something very comparable, so they built this gun, and it's almost an identical replica of it, minus the little vented rib on top. It's got a lot of the same features and looks very similar to it. Now, if you look in here at this forcing column on this thing, it is not flattened off on the bottom, and it's a lot beefier, the frame around this and all, so they came out with this as a solution to the K-frames being susceptible to cracking, and the bad part is they couldn't come out with this till 1980, and they were only really in service for a few years before the police forces started transitioning over to semi-autos, the 9mm semi-autos that hold more capacity. So these things are a little late to the game, if you really want to be honest with me. Now, all these are still made today now. They've started making the Python again. They've always made these K-frames here, and they've always made this L frame here. Now, the L frame was made in blued or stainless. This one just happens to be a stainless one. This is a 686 on this one. So, in recap, we have a Smith & Wesson 686, which is a mid-size L frame. We have a Smith & Wesson Model 66, which is the K-frame. That's what the police forces carried around for so long. And we have a Colt Python, which is, in Colt's terms, is the I-frame. So the two most similar ones are the Python here on the bottom and the 686 here on top. They're the most similar. This K-frame here in the middle was absolutely made just to I wouldn't say replace, but make an easier gun to carry as a service weapon, as opposed to that gigantic Model 27 that came out in the 1930s. So some of these rumors, you know, I don't know, they really people like to really embellish on stuff when they start talking about these rumors. They really like to scare people off. Like I said, I've never had a problem with a python, an older python going out of time, and I've never cracked a K-frame forcing cone on this. But I can say this, folks, even though I've never done this, they did make a whole new gun because of this was a recognized problem in this. So I've never cracked one, but they did create a whole new gun that's very similar in look, very similar in size. It is a little bit more beefed up. Colt never created a whole new gun for their problem that was rumored to be a problem. So you take that for what it's worth. I'm not here to tell you whether they're true or not. I've never had either one of them happen, but I'm using the context clues and saying Smith did create a whole new gun to address what people thought was a problem, and Colt did not. So anyway, folks, you have any questions on any of these guns? I think I have separate videos on all three of them, and I'll answer any questions you have to the best of my ability. Thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.